this. All right. Okay. Welcome, everyone, to our Advice from Those Who've Been There online panel. Brought together a group of incredible, badass real estate investing goddesses to be with us tonight. I'm so excited that you're all here and can share your wisdom and advice and some of your highs and lows, and we'll share with everybody here what your journey, because it's so important to learn from those who've been there before, so we can find out what we should do better and maybe avoid some mistakes, because the mistakes that you make in real estate investing can be painful and expensive. And whenever you can avoid those, that's really a good thing. But when you do it right, then it can also be very lucrative and amazing. So that's the beauty of real estate investing, and that's why I'm so happy to have these ladies with us tonight. And these are all women who, well, we have a couple exciting things going on, and I'll talk more about at the end. But there's an event that we're hosting November 2nd through 4th, the Wealth Through Real Estate event, and all of these ladies will be part of a panel at this event. In addition, we're all part of a book project called Wealth for Women, and all of these women are featured in this book. So I'm super excited that they can be here to share their genius, and we'll talk more about the event and the book later. And actually, we have some prizes that we're going to be giving away at the end of the webinar. So we have 4 prizes. So if you're interested in getting a prize and getting one of these prizes, and they're as valuable as $1,000, then send an email to Monique, my name, at realestateinvestorgoddesses.com with the subject line, "I want to win," and you'll be entered into the pool to win a prize if you send an email. And we'll check out the emails later. Okay, so I want to first introduce myself, because I know a lot of you are not familiar with me. My name is Monique Hom. I am the founder of Real Estate Investor Goddesses. Real Estate Investor Goddesses is a group, it's a sisterhood. It is a group of education, inspiration, and support for women who want to invest in real estate. And I started this. I've been investing in real estate for 13 years. I have some single family and duplex, but mostly apartment buildings around the country, and that I and my husband and our investors have purchased. So we have a little over 1,200 units in 6 states. And as I've been on my real estate investing journey, I realized that this was such a lucrative and wonderful way of life, I guess. But there were so few women in the game. There were so few of us doing it, and I wanted to change that. So I created Real Estate Investor Goddesses, and my big, bold, audacious goal is to help 1 million women become financially free through real estate. So create so much passive income, enough passive income that they do not need to trade their time for money anymore. So they have enough passive income that you work if you want to, and I think that we do work when we we'll want to give back, because that's how we are as women. We are wired to give back to our families, to give back to our communities, to give back to the world. But when we're so caught up in jobs maybe we don't like, or the struggle of paying bills, then we don't have that energy to share our gifts. So my big goal is to help 1 million women be able to share their gifts in that way, because they are financially and time free, and the world needs us to be able to share our gifts. Like, the world really isn't needing us to do some stuff. So that's my big goal. And to that end, I have a podcast, the Real Estate Investor Goddesses podcast, where I highlight incredible women like our panelists tonight, who share their stories, their biggest mistakes, their what they're most proud of, and share some golden advice like we're going to hear tonight. So that's on the podcast. I also have a book, The Real Estate Investor Goddess Handbook, and this other book that's coming out soon that we'll talk more about, that all of our panelists are co-authors in. And I'm also a wife and mama of 3 great kids. So mom and stepmom. I have 2 stepkids, but they're all my kids. So that's me in a nutshell. And let me introduce you to our Rockstar Goddess panel. So those are the ones you've really come here you're here to learn from. We have first Paige Panzarello, who's the cash flow chick, and you can see it. She's so beautifully branded right behind her. She's been a real estate investor and entrepreneur for over 20 years. And her focus right now is on non-performing notes. And she is killing it and crushing it in that space. And she teaches people how to profit with non-performing notes in her Building Wealth with Notes workshop. And so but you've done a lot of different things in real estate investing, and you can share a little bit more about that. But now you're focused on notes, but she's like, you were in construction too, right? You had a construction business, and
yes.
Yeah, so she's amazing. And next we have Lanisha Stubbs, who is a residential and commercial broker in Los Angeles. I think, Lanisha, you've had your business, your commercial, your brokerage for 13 years, but you've been investing for even longer than that. She's a very successful investor, and also has a heart for helping women invest. She's the founder of the Los Angeles Women in Real Estate Investors Club, LA Wire. And so she's a badass investor, and she's also an educator. I guess we're all educators at heart. And then next we have Kimberly Naylor, who is also in construction. She has a construction company, but she's an investor first, as well. She has 2 companies. One's an investment company, and other one's a construction company, and helping investors. And she's a speaker, author, and life coach, and also has a heart for helping women, and has a group for women. She's based in Detroit. So she's, Lanisha's in LA, I'm in LA, Paige is in Orange County, California, and Kimberly's in Detroit. And last but certainly not least, we have Linda Liberatore, who's a technology and real estate expert. She's expert. She's such an expert, I had to write it twice. Excuse the slide. But her focus is on helping people self-manage with property management solutions. She's a Forbes Real Estate Council member. She's a coach with Think Realty, and she was a 2017 Property Manager of the Year. And she is also herself a real estate investor. So helping all of us help other investors, but we're investors ourselves first. And Linda's in Chicago. So we're geographically diverse over here. All right, so that's our panel, and we're going to get into the questions in a moment. But before I do that, I want to, because some of us people have been joining us since, I just wanted to let you all know that we're going to be awarding some prizes at the end of this webinar. And if you are interested in being in the pool for a prize, then email in the subject line, "I want to win," to me, Monique, at realestateinvestorgoddesses.com, and I'll figure out at the end how we award those. I have a system in my head, and we'll do it. All right, so. And also, if you have any questions for our panel members, leave them in the chat, and then we'll get to them. But so, ladies, and I guess I'll start with Paige, because you were the first on the line.
Okay.
And just, you are a real estate investor, real estate investing goddess. So what is the best thing about being a real estate investor for you?
For me, in my space, I actually get to help people. I really am excited in that. For me, my philosophy has always been people first and profit second. And so, as a note investor specifically, I am able to actually profit from helping to keep people in their homes after they've gone through, life happening to them. And so that is, very fulfilling for me, having gone through 2007 myself.
Yeah. So just for those of you who may not know what a note is, because I did not necessarily know this before I got
Yeah.
into the real estate investing game. A note is basically it's a mortgage on a home. All right. And
Actually, a note is basically
okay,
a promise. It's a promise to pay. That's what
okay.
it is. It's a
All right.
promise to pay. And then there's secured notes and unsecured notes. So when you buy a home, the security is the house, right? So if you don't pay your mortgage, they're going to take away your house from you. And I actually do the opposite. I try and work with people to stay in their homes.
Okay. So somebody who they're in pre-foreclosure, they haven't been able to pay,
Mm-hmm.
and the bank is threatening to take away their home, then you're able to buy these notes at a substantial discount,
Yes.
and then you can negotiate and with the homeowner, and they can take part of
Yes.
that discount, and you take part of that discount. So it's very,
Yes.
very win-win. So it's great.
Yes. Absolutely.
Beautiful. How about you, Lanisha? What is your favorite thing? What do you think is the best thing about being a real estate investor?
I think I'd have to agree with Paige as far as helping people, because I work in a distressed market. A lot of the people that are in either pre-foreclosure or vacant homes, they don't quite know what their relocation plans are or what their next moves are. So it's great to come in and try to be a resource. And I pride myself in calling my ladies in my investment club real estate solution providers, because we're providing solutions to people's real estate situations that, coincidentally, we may get an opportunity to own the property at some point. But more importantly, we're able to help somebody out of a bad situation.
Beautiful. And yeah, somebody texted that or put in the chat. It's really hard to hear you, Lanisha. So I don't know if there's a way to speak louder or get closer to the microphone.
Okay.
But so yeah, I love that. The real estate. What do you the real estate solutions provider? Yeah, so she's helping a lot of people that also are in pre-foreclosure, or they might have a probate issue or tax issue, or they're just struggling with their property, and she and the women that she teach go and help them find a solution to their problems in a win-win way. So beautiful. I love that. How about you, Kimberly? What is your favorite thing about being a real estate investor?
Well, the number one thing for me is it gives me freedom. I'm going to just say it helps me time to help others. And I think that's amazing because someone said earlier, when you have time, you just have more creativity to solve. And the other part I like about it, when I hear someone who's looking to get into home ownership, I like being able to educate them, not just on buying a kitchen and a bathroom, but how they can position themselves financially, use that asset to stabilize themselves financially. So I think it's the educational piece that's pretty exciting because you get to explore that with them. And while they're, acquiring a home, if they run into challenges, they understand the process instead of just the motion of getting a home. They actually understand what they're.
Beautiful. And Linda, what is the best thing for you about being a real estate investor?
Right. Well, I'm an investor, and I also, though, support the investors. So I think the way I'd put it is certainly education, as they've all, kind of touched on. And in my case, I think what we really do is help empower those investors through the education. Because so many times they get into it and they really don't know how to, let's say, manage that buy and hold property once they're into it. And I really feel like when we like communicate that, I'll call it the technology solutions or just business processes, they get so excited and they're on their own. You know what I mean? It's like when somebody's on their training wheels and then they can ride the bike. Like it's like that kind of feeling, like there they go, they're off and running. So I think that's the joy we get.
Yeah. I have to agree with all of you, because in a way, you're all talking about the win-win nature of real estate investing, and not everyone invests that way, though. I mean, there are some people that are some lords that don't necessarily have that heart to help. But part of my personal mission is to only invest in a way where I leave a community and a property better than I found it, and where we only engage in win-win transactions. And when you have that, when you can invest in a way where you have a heart to help, and you're personally profiting, and I love what it's done for my life in terms of freedom, but it's also, I love that you can do well and do well. So I think that's one of the really great things about real estate investing. This is not a question that I prepared you ladies for, but I do have a question for you, because I think that a lot of, and the question is about how you got started. And I've interviewed, I think almost everybody except for Kimberly on my podcast. So I know how you each got started, and it's all a little different. And so I'd love for you guys briefly to share how you got started, because I know a lot of people, when they're thinking, okay, how do I get into this game? They think either that you have to have been born into it, or you have to have like $1 million already. You have to have, or Donald Trump's bank account, or I don't know what, there are a lot of things that people think that they have to have in order to get started. And I know that everyone here has, you've all started in different ways. So I'd love to just have each of you share briefly, like how did you get into real estate? Like, how did you get into your first investment? And because it will run the gamut, and I think it's inspiring to know all the different ways in which you can get going. So I'm going to start backwards. Actually, go first with Linda, who I know is like mostly into property, but you have some property too. So how did you get started?
I do. Yeah. And I would say that in my case, I guess I was very fortunate, especially for this panel. The answer would be I had a really strong woman mentor in my life that was building a portfolio, and I was actually working with her. And so she taught me a lot, and that's how I got started. So she was very strong, and we're still investors together to this day. So
beautiful. Network and sisterhood. That's how so many of us get started. How about you, Kimberly?
Well, I actually was living in Chicago, and I was working for a real estate attorney, had a single practice. I'll never forget Marvin M. Brooks. And I got introduced. I was a secretary, and I would see these contracts come in for a property, and a couple months later, the same property had a much higher value. Someone made $30,000, $40,000 or more. And I'm like, what the heck are they doing? I need to be a part of that. And that's how I got started in that process. He was really kind. He would say, come into my office. We're going to have a lesson. And he would teach me about real estate and different things. I was actually preparing all the documentations for closings. I was like, I got to get started with this. And when I moved back to Detroit, I bought my first property with my Discover card for $4,500.
$4,500. That's pretty much what you can get a property for in LA. Isn't that right, Lanisha? You can't get a door for $4,500, like a little, like a door that opens.
And I've been doing it ever since.
Amazing. All right. How about you, Lanisha?
I was actually my first client. I'm fresh out of college. I got my license. I was so green and excited to be in real estate. And I've got my first investment property, a duplex, and I was still renting. an apartment building for $500, and my mom was still paying my rent, and I was cash flowing about $1,000 a month from my rental property. And I thought, oh, this is cool. I could do this over and over again. So I got my first piece of property in a part of the city that I probably would never live in because I didn't feel it was safe, but it was good enough for me to spend my money because I could actually afford to buy over there. So I always tell ladies when I'm talking to them, your first piece
Sorry,
of property.
speak a little louder, Lanisha. It's a little hard to hear you.
I'm so sorry.
There you go. That's better.
I always tell people your first piece of property doesn't have to be the one that your dream house that you're living in. You're doing it for the numbers and the profit. So I was investing before the market crash, about 2005 and 6. I was having a ball at that point in the market. So I did it over and over again. I got a duplex. I fixed it up. I rented it out and I sold it. 2 or 3 properties down the line and $300,000 and $400,000 into it, the market crashed. And that's when I started to really learn my lessons. When you go through a down cycle of a market, you really get to learn a lot. Mm-hmm. So that's basically how I started. And then I started to show other people how to do the same thing. And it just blew up. I went to Atlanta and started investing in units in Atlanta, and it just kept going from there.
Beautiful. I love that. And you made such a really good point about not necessarily living where you want to invest. Not because, as one of my mentors says, live where you want to live, invest where the numbers make sense. And where the numbers make sense is often not where you want to live. You want to live in a really nice area usually, and that's not necessarily the best investment property. So it's really important to understand what makes for a good investment property for you. Awesome. How about you, Paige?
My story is a little different, as you know, Monique. I was a young person, and I was thrown into the deep end of the pool. I had a grandmother that passed away. She had 38 townhome units, a sewer treatment plant, and some land. And the estate was about $4 million in debt. So I went off to Arizona, and knowing nothing about real estate investing. And I very quickly discovered that I am not a good property manager because I have a very big heart and everybody has a story. So fast forward, I won't bore you with all the details, but fast forward, I did discover that I had a very good head for real estate investing. And so I asked lots of questions. And as far as I was concerned, there was never a stupid question that I asked. I surrounded myself with people that had the answers. And I propelled that into, like you said, I owned my own construction company. We had 36 employees. We were building our own projects. We were building everybody else's projects. We started prior to 2003, so before the escalation of the market. And then 2007 happened. And Lanisha, you're absolutely right. That's when you learn your lessons. My lesson was about $20 million worth. So I lost $20 million in 2007. But I will say that I was very fortunate in that downturn, I had a lot of cash. I had a lot of equipment and some property, my own cash flowing properties. So I was able to sell everything at fire sale. Cash was king at that point. So I had to, everything was selling for nothing on the dollar. But I sold everything and I paid off everybody that I owed. And I have investors that I was working with at that point. To this day, they're still working with me because I did what I said I was going to do. And when I came back into real estate investing, I had to start over, and I had nothing. So, I started with nothing. I started in a deficit, and then I went really high, and then I crashed and burned, and then I came back starting with with nothing. So if we can do that, then you can do anything. You just have to know to lean on your support system. And that, I'm sure we'll talk about that shortly, Monique, but that's how I got started. And I'm a better and stronger investor for it. I really was a blessing. I believe it or not, I consider it a blessing.
Yeah. Brilliant. Love it. And congratulations on having $20 million to lose, because not everyone has $20 million to lose. So that's awesome.
Nice number.
That's great. You know, everyone should have 20 million to lose. That's awesome. And I'll just share my story because it's different too. So I got started. I knew nothing about real estate investing. The only thing I'd ever been taught about real estate was to buy your own home. And in 2005 in LA, I could not afford to buy a home in a even decent, slightly decent neighborhood where I wanted to live. And even though I was an attorney at the time with a decent salary, I found it really hard to afford a home. And a friend of mine who was in a similar position, he was a consultant, suggests that we buy a duplex together. You know, he'd live on one side, I'd live on another. And since I couldn't afford one home, but I could afford half a home, I decided, like, okay, let's do that. And what ended up happening, though, is instead of us finding a property with two equal sides, we ended up finding a property where one part was much bigger and nicer than the other, and then there were two other units that were smaller but rentable. So we ended up each taking a bedroom in the bigger unit and renting out the other ones. And we were like really house hacking. We actually even rented out our basement. And then it's like, wait, these tenants are paying my mortgage. This is awesome. Like, not only am I not spending money, I'm like, you know, it was like everything was covered and I had these tax benefits. So that's how I got started in real estate investing. And then when I married my husband, he had another property and he had a duplex. And so we built little by little that way. But it's just, so I started, you know, living in one side of my house and then renting out the other. So as you can see, y'all, there are a lot of different ways to get into this game. And so from wherever you are, if you're wondering, how do I do this? You can do this. There, you know, whether you like put it on a credit card and you get a, you know, property, or you live in one side right now the other, or you're lucky enough to inherit something, even if it's millions of dollars in debt, you know, they're like, or you work with, or, you know, happen to have a great mentor around that can guide you. So all of those are ways to get in. All right. So, we talked about getting started and, you know, the best thing about real estate, but my next question is, do you have any regrets? So let me start with Lanisha. Any regrets?
I would say my regret is just not taking advantage of the down market. I've learned now that that's where you can make a lot of money when being in a position to invest in those type of markets. And so knowing what I know now, I can't wait for the market to kind of dip back down so I can catch some more deals, as sad as that sounds, but
it's coming again.
Yeah, although conditions are different from last time. I don't know if we're going to have the fire sale we had in 2009, 10.
Yeah, it might not go as fast and as down, but, you know, it's going to slow down. Everything is a cycle, and so it has its time and its moment. But I regret not more aggressively investing during that downturn, because I feel like I would have had an empire by now. I'm still on a great path. And I think the best thing about real estate is once you acquire the skill, you can do it over and over and over. It doesn't matter how many times you lose everything. You have the skill set to be able to build again. And that's the beauty of this industry. But at the end of the day, yeah, I really wish I had invested more during that downturn, because I think at this point I would have been sitting even prettier.
Yeah, absolutely. How about you, Kimberly?
Well, I wish I would have had the resources to invest during the downturn. I kind of went down with it. I had just put a big portfolio together. So I was heavily indebted with some of the properties, waiting for some to turn, and that didn't happen. I'm like, okay, now I'm stuck. I get them sold. I had made all this investment into them. I always sold on a very high-end scale. I had a very nice home that someone was like, so they walk in, they have to buy it. You know, I just can't leave this house behind. So my regret was just being in a position to take advantage of the market, because I just had over-indebted myself. And I guess I'll always make sure I never use everything again. So I have some cash flow that could be moving. I mean, I fared fairly well. I was able to keep part of my portfolio, but part of it I had to relinquish.
Yeah. That was a really hard time for a lot of us. I know I lost a property during the downturn too. So, yeah. So have
I actually had a bank to give me the property. The prices got so low in the area that they actually forgave the mortgage, some 72,000 remaining debt.
wow,
So now I have a clear free property today.
good for you.
That was my blessing out of the
Nice.
downturn market.
Yeah. Nobody gave me a free property. Good for you. Congrats. All right. How about you, Linda?
I think my biggest regret would have been not starting sooner. As they kind of described, if I would have started sooner, I think I could be further along in the process. So I think that's my biggest thing, is kind of the fear that held me back, and I really wish I would have got started a little sooner.
Yeah. So many people feel the same way. I know. Whether they say, was the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
what's the next best time is today, right? So,
yeah, exactly.
how about you, Paige? What's your biggest regret?
This is going to sound ridiculous, but I don't have a single regret. I really don't. I learned so much throughout my years. It was stressful. It was crazy. But I learned so much, and it shaped me for who I am today. It shaped me at who I am as an investor today. And in all honesty, I am really happy with where I am right now. Had those things not happened to me, had I not taken the path that I took, had I not lost all of that money, had I not lost everything in Arizona, I would not have come back to California. I would not have met my husband. I would not be sitting here on this panel with you ladies. So I really have no regrets at all.
Beautiful.
None.
I love that. I wish I could say I had no regret. I don't, on one hand, I agree with you, because I wouldn't be here either. And I'm grateful for every step of the journey.
Yeah.
And I wish, my regret was not getting education sooner, and not learning more about real estate investing. And because I realize, the more I learn, the more I realize the opportunities that I had let pass me by because I didn't know they were there. I didn't know that they existed. Sure. And I structured things in ways that, I could have, we could have been a lot further along. Like one example is we were buying properties. So we were buying properties in 2010, 2011, but we were buying all cash because we just didn't know about leveraging. And, if we had known more about, we could have done 10 instead of one at a time, right? Or 25 instead of one at a time.
But there wasn't a lot of credit available there either.
There wasn't, but even hard money, I could have leveraged it more.
The hard lenders were still in the game.
They were there.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's
they were
true.
there.
That's
we didn't know, right? And so and then the more I learned, the more I was like, oh, I could have done that, right? So you live, you learn, and if you learn, when you learn more, you earn more. So I just wish I had learned earlier different things, but still am incredibly grateful to be exactly where I am today. And it's true, if I hadn't had the mistakes that I had, and then I wouldn't be able to teach other people what not to do.
Exactly.
All right. So speaking, my next question was the key lessons. What are I guess I'll start with Kimberly. What key lessons have you had? So maybe what's your top 2 lessons that you've gotten through real estate investing?
Well, I think the first thing is always kind of secure yourself first. I always tell a first-time buyer, if you can, especially if they're coming from apartments, what's wrong with the duplex? You've been living in a shared space, and start positioning themselves. I think that's a key lesson. Always think about using your mortgage for your advancement. And the other thing I would say as a key lesson is, really adapt to what your market conditions are. Don't be so attached to the asset that you forget to make opportunities from that asset. Sometimes, I just love this house I found. The key lesson is I'm never attached to the asset. The asset has ripened itself. We sell it.
Yeah.
And it's not about, oh, it's such a great area, because that area could change in a matter of change market. So, always think about stabilizing yourself, and also never be too attached to the asset. See the asset as a means to continue to advance.
Great. Thank you. How about you, Paige? What are your top 2 lessons?
Well, one of them is a lot of what Kimberly just said. The other I'd like to add, if most of us go into, especially when we're first starting out, our own capital caps at a certain point, right? So you oftentimes will have JV investors that you want to partner with. Now, I strongly urge people, when you talk about people and emotions and money, it's very much like a marriage. So date your investor. Please date that person before you get into that marriage, because, and believe me, I've learned the hard way about, JV partners, but, they were all good learning lessons. But just be careful. Be careful when you go into a partnership of any kind, and make sure that you are covered, that they are covered, that everything is itemized, and that there's a very clear understanding of everybody's roles. And the expectation is very clear as well in terms of the outcome, because life is hard as it is, and you don't need to go into something and create, stress where it's not necessary, as long as you're clear up front. So that's definitely one of the lessons. And then, of course, educate yourself. Don't be afraid to ask stupid questions. Most of us, especially women, for whatever reason, we can balance households, we can balance husbands and kids and jobs and activities. And then when it comes to investing, we don't trust ourselves. And so trust yourself, but educate yourself. Know that you can do this, but ask questions. Ask lots and lots of questions. And when I first started out, there wasn't the support of groups, RIA groups, or like Investor Goddesses. There weren't mentors, there weren't coaches. So I would strongly urge anybody that's looking to get into this, one of the key lessons is educate yourself and lean on your support system. And oftentimes that is not family members, and that's okay. Get connected, because you have resources that I didn't have, and they will be your biggest asset to you to get you through, some of those humps, because they all happen. They still happen to all of us that are on this panel. Every day there's always a challenge. And we lean on each other for that support. So I think that that's really important.
Beautiful. Thank you. How about you, Linda? Oh, I can't hear you. Are you muted?
I'm sorry, that's my fault. Mine's going to be, I said, what mine's going to be. I think it was process. I think that one of the things I find is that if you can apply a process and, you could replicate it, and that you can perfect it. But then once you kind of see it, you're molding it and you repeat it. So whether really, again, I know that I'm more focused on the management end, but even on the acquisition end, like, don't try to shape that deal to not fit what your process is. If this is the numbers you look for, if it doesn't fit, don't try to make it fit. You know what I mean? That's the sign you have to kind of walk away. And I think that's the true, whether you're screening a tenant or collecting the rent, like she said, your heart gets in the way. I just think that it's all natural stuff. Like, those are all real emotions that really happen. So, like, set a process and follow the process, and it will be your process. And as they said, I would look for people, definitely mentors along the way, people that have been there that help you. But then there's so many resources. As she said, you take those resources, trust, validate it, and then make your process.
Beautiful. Thank you. How about you, Lanisha?
My tip would probably be consistent with what was already said, in that they're, how can I say, in my business, I work with majority of male clientele that are all cash investors, and they fumble through deals left and right. They don't have as much reservation about having all their ducks in a row to be able to go out and flip money and double it and triple it. They just go out and do it. So educate yourself, align yourself with the best resources, but don't overthink the process and think that everything has to be perfect before you step your foot out. You'll learn some of your best lessons from just getting out there and doing it and giving it a try, getting out there and making offers and talking to people and networking. And you never know what deal may present itself to you. You just have to be ready to identify it when it is a deal. You have to know what a deal looks like.
Yeah.
My other tip is there's so many different parts of real estate that you can go into. There's syndication, there's fix and flip, there's notes, there's buy and hold. And so I would say take a moment and get familiar with the different facets of real estate, and then find where you want your niche to be and find a mentor that can guide you through that niche so that you can start on the right foot and give yourself ahead of the game of having the confidence that you've already been educated on how to go about it in that lane of real estate. And I think that'll help you gain confidence. And you might stumble along the way even still, and that's okay. You can still proceed and get back up and keep gaining and keep growing. And like I said, it's a cycle. So it's always another turn around the market that you'll do something different with the next cycle of every market.
Thank you. All right. So last advice. I'm hearing an echo. Are you guys hearing an echo?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Stop. Thank you. All right. Well, this is the last question, and then I think I can get into a couple of the questions in the chat before we give out our prizes and we wrap up. So the last question is, what advice do you have for someone just starting? So a woman who's just about to get started, what's one piece of advice you would give her? And I guess I'll start with Paige.
Definitely education. But aside from that, because we've already said that, knowing your what, and everybody talks about what is your why. Well, we all have a why, but know what your what is. And what I mean by that is make sure that you know if you need to create chunks of cash, or if you need to create streams of cash flow, or if you need a depreciating asset, and know what your risk tolerances are. So, for instance, if you need streams of cash flow, don't go into fixing and flipping, because that creates chunks of cash. If you need something that's long-term, then you go into a buy and hold situation. If you need chunks of cash, don't necessarily go in immediately to the buy and hold situation, because that's streams of cash flow and it's long-term. So know what your what is, and know what your risk tolerances are, excuse me. And don't get, there's lots of different types of real estate investing out there. Don't go into the shiny object syndrome. Don't get distracted. Pick one or two, study it, educate yourself, have a mentor, try it. If that doesn't work, fine, shift to something else. But it starts with knowing who you are as an investor and what your what is, and that will guide you what medium you start with. And don't get distracted with shiny objects.
Great advice. All right, Lanisha, what's your top advice for someone about to start?
It would be to join your local RIA or join an investment club, so that you can surround yourself with like-minded people that are going in the same direction that you're looking to go in. I think most often people will go to like a meeting and then come home and try to re-explain to their spouse or their roommate or their family what just happened. And they'll say, yeah, you got those real estate dreams like everybody else. And it kind of crushes your goal and strategic planning that you came home with. So you want to surround yourself with other like-minded women, if you can, some type of women's society, so that it's a great support system. It will help with the confidence. It'll help with the education. but more so it'll just help you continue to strive for your goals and don't have anybody knock you off your plans.
Great. Love it. Kimley, what would you
Oh.
advice for a woman just starting?
I would definitely support both of those comments, because if you're kind of new, you can go in with someone, kind of share the journey, share the expense together is a great way to do it. That's one of the things I'm going to be definitely encouraging women to kind of link up and try the first ones together. And you definitely have to know what you need the real estate to do for you. If you need monthly cash, that's going to really dictate what you do. You have to really know what that is. Otherwise, you'll find yourself just repeating someone else's process that is not meeting your needs. And I think those would be the main two. Don't do it. Don't try to do it alone. And I always say this: never get too attached to the asset. Don't get so excited. I gotta have that house that you forget to look at the numbers. It really makes sense. I always encourage, if it doesn't make sense on paper first, then we don't execute it. You have to make money on paper first, and then execute. And that's the confidence that you build, because you already know what's going to the outcome, because you've already structured the deal to win. And I found that always gave me the confidence to go ahead and process through it, because I saw it on paper.
Brilliant. Great. Linda?
Well, I'm gonna I'll say first validate what everybody said. I like really a little bit of everybody's there, but I love the RIAs. That was something that I did personally for myself that I found was really beneficial, and I really was in quite a mix of them, and I think that's beneficial because they each kind of take on their own personality, and so I would say that kind of that trust and verify. You're around like-minded people, but you'll start to see which ones maybe are taking the direction you would or did already take what you did. So you can hear the stories, validate. You've got the mentors right there just because they're your friends and you're with them. And I guess I think the last one is you can't become a professional RIA attendee. You got to execute, right? You got to actually take that last step. So, it's it's hard to then jump in, so I think that's the probably the next one.
Yeah. So good. Such great advice. I just, all of it is brilliant and just right on point. You really need to get clarity on what and why you're doing it. You need to be surrounded by the right people. You need to have great team members, partners, and it's that education, it's the team, and it's the focus, and all of that makes for success. So super, super great. We're going to briefly go through some of these questions, and I'll just let the one of you who feels like I got this one to handle it, or you can throw it to me. But so Amy had our first question. She says, how does the strategy change for the panel with increased interest rates? Which one of you wants to take that question? How does your strategy change when the interest rates increase?
I can take that one.
Sure. Go ahead.
In note investing, interest rates do not affect me at all. Because we build in, I buy non-performing notes that are secured by residential real estate in the first position. So I'm the first to be paid. And because I buy them non-performing, I build in a huge discount. So for me, I literally become somebody's bank. And the interest rates don't affect me at all, in that I can negotiate and renegotiate and modify those terms with, of course, with the acceptance of the borrower, to a workable situation that's a win for them and a win for me. I have 23 different exit strategies in note investing. So I can mitigate my risk almost across the board, no matter what the real estate market does, no matter what the stock market does, no matter what interest rates do, because it doesn't affect me at all.
Okay. One of you who buys, with mortgages, where the interest rate fix your numbers. You want to
Sorry.
handle how no, that's great. That's one of the beautiful things about note investing. And that's one of the beautiful things about real estate. There are all these different asset classes and strategies. And maybe then when interest rates are high, that's when you look at note investing, right? Or you look at some other type of asset that works for the market conditions. So somebody else wanted to answer that briefly, or?
When interest rate starts going up, I just might determine what strategy I use. Am I going to buy something and hold it, or if I see the interest rates going up, it's that time to see if I can get maybe sell something if I don't want to hold on to it if I'm paying a mortgage on it. If I have something free, it's less impactful. But I think I just kind of focus on maybe when I'm buying or when I'm not going to buy, or how I'm going to acquire the property. Maybe I'll just go ahead. A cash transaction is not use the interest at all. But then maybe I've noticed sometimes once you're inside the property, sometimes you get deals on the interest because you already own it.
Right. So when you own it and the interest rates are fixed, it doesn't really affect you. But when you're buying, it's part of the formula, right? So if you just have to look at how the numbers pan out. So there's a formula for figuring out when the numbers make sense. And so when it's like, when the levers change, when the interest rates go up, then the price tends to have to come down a little bit to get the same returns. So it's just math. It's math. Like ultimately it's math. Figuring out what numbers you need and then buying accordingly.
In my investment club, I teach my women to negotiate terms. So they negotiate seller finance. That's always another option if they're not able to borrow as much as they had hoped for or that they could later on in the year, that maybe negotiating seller finance is always another option out there.
All right. Beautiful. Yeah, Lanisha does a lot of seller financing, so that's great. Okay, so I can do the next two questions quickly. What are some of the hot markets to buy into right now? It is asset class specific when you ask that question. I don't know if there's a particular asset class you're interested in. So I'm more of an apartment building investor, and Paige's notes. I don't know if it matters with notes at all. Linda, you were raising your hand. What do you think?
Well, I was just going to go by kind of the Think Realty conferences. So if they're into the asset class, like single family investing, we hear a lot, like Huntsville, Alabama. We've had some big speakers kind of talking about, can you hear me okay? Like the Memphis area, single family investing, those again are good in those areas. And like we've had some like Federal Reserve people and stuff kind of talking about how that moves. So I think those are pretty good right now. But again, I think you gave a better answer that it really will depend on where what you're looking at.
Yeah.
Here's a great tool as well, Monique. If you go to U-Haul will show you migration patterns, and you can see where people are traveling one way and where they're moving. And that's always a great indicator of a up and coming market or a market that's strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Huntsville had a lot of economic opportunities, and that's what drove it. To your point, Paige, that's exactly right.
Right.
So I have 7 factors that I teach about what makes for a strong property market, and it's something that I'll talk about at the event. But definitely population growth and job growth are 2 of the main factors. So when population is growing and jobs are growing, that tends to be a hot market. Okay, and I think we talked about where we started. I think we're kind of running out of time, so we're not going to be able to answer the questions now, but you'll be able to. You have the opportunity to join us all in Los Angeles, November 2nd through 4th. We're going to be there. You can get belly to belly, heart to heart with these incredible women. We're all going to be in the same room. So definitely, we'll talk a little bit more about how you can join us there. But right now it's time for the prizes. So let me see. So how I was going to pick is seeing who is who's has the? I just had a birthday, October 1st. Who has the next birthday? When is your? Who has a birthday coming up? When's the next birthday? When's your birthday, Paige?
My birthday is January 15th.
Okay, January 15th. How about you, Lanisha? When's your birthday?
August 1st.
August 1st. Linda?
October 13th.
Oh, you just had one.
Happy birthday.
You're also a
Thank you.
Libra like me. Okay. And then Kimberly?
July 23rd.
July 23rd. Okay. Well, I'm going to give this one to Linda since she just had a birthday and you're closest. So let me see how many emails we have. We're going to have you pick a number. Let's see.
Well, I've got my number.
Okay. What's your number?
13.
13. Okay.
It's a birthday.
Yeah. You got to go with that one, right?
All right. Let me see which one's 13th.
Linda, you have a lot of birthday wishes coming to you in the chat room.
I know. I see that. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, Roberta Nab, you won. the
Yay,
first
Roberta.
prize. So that you're going to be winning. You're going to get a copy of our new book. It's called Wealth for Women, Conversations with the Team That Creates the Dream. So it's the top female professionals who can help you get wealthy in real estate. Each of the women on the panel tonight have a chapter or contributors to this book. So you have won a copy, and it's not even out yet, but it'll be out by the event. There's going to be a book signing at the event. So you're going to get yourself a fresh off the press copy of the book.
Yay, Roberta.
Yay. So congratulations.
Congratulations.
All right, let's see. So I guess the next closest is Paige. So what's your number?
27.
27. Okay, so the winner is Princess Hairston. Princess Hairston, you are the winner of my book, copy of my book, The Real Estate Investor Goddess Handbook. So, yeah, Princess, you got your son. Yay! She put
Yay!
Yay, congratulations. You are the lucky winner. And okay, so next after that is July. So Kimberly, what's your number?
I'm going to go like Linda. Why not 23?
23. Okay, so that is Amy DaCosta. You have won ticket to the event, a $997 value. You will be joining us in Los Angeles, November 2nd through 4th. So we'll send you an email with info about that. And last but not least, we have another prize ticket. So, Lanisha, what's your number?
I'm going to go with 7.
7. All right. So, Bernadette Williams, you won also tickets to the event. So you have a $997 prize. So congratulations.
Yay!
Yay! Congrats to. Oh, Amy says she purchased them already. Can I transfer them to someone else? Okay. I can get you a book. So put in the chat if you want the Wealth for Women book or the Real Estate Investor Goddess Handbook, and you can get a book. Or you're going to be at the event. I'll give you both books. How about that, Amy? You can get both.
There you go.
Okay, and then let's see. So who? Deanna Neely. I guess was the next one. Deanna Neely. She's you won a ticket. Yay! Okay. Great. Fantastic. All right. Congratulations.
Congratulations, everybody.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, yes.
Congratulations.
Oh wait, Bernadette says she already paid too. Somebody else can have hers. Well, Bernadette, I'll give you a book, and then let's see, who else is Michelle Gratis? Michelle Gratis.
Yay, Michelle.
Michelle Gratis, you can get a ticket to the event. GRADIS. So you are a winner. There are lots of winners. We have extra winners. All right.
That was
So
lots of fun, Monique.
congrats to all the women who have won. And for those of you who didn't win but still want to join us, then you can join us at the Wealth Through Real Estate event, November 2nd through 4th. So we are going to go deep into how you get started, and we'll be talking about all sorts of things on, from how to pick your market to choosing your asset class and making it work for you and your team. And all of these women will be on a panel, on one of two panels. And also, you're going to learn how to do this in a way that is distinctly feminine as well. So it's going to be an incredible time, and looking forward to seeing you there. We have a special code tonight for all of you who are on there. If you want to, of course you're going to want to join. You're going to want to come. So you to come, go to wealththroughrealestateevent.com and use the code of the woman who invited you, who you found out about this from. So if you found out through Paige, then write Paige, all caps, in the coupon code. It'll save you $700, or Lanisha, all caps, or Kimley, all caps, or Linda, all caps, or Monique, all caps. And so we can know who you found out about this from, and we can get them credit. So join us, but use the first name of the woman that you discovered this webinar from to get that discount. And bonus, until tomorrow it's 9 p.m. you can bring a girlfriend for free for that price.
Oh, how nice.
So 2 for 1. But that will expire tomorrow. So so come on out and join us. And that is it. Yay. Thank you, ladies, so much. You guys were awesome. Oh my gosh, so much gold. And there was a lot of, I saw somebody's like, I want you to mentor me, Paige. and we did not get to go deep into, I know there were a lot more questions, but come and join us, and you can ask us questions in the room, and we're going to have a great event. There's also a VIP dinner. You can join us. These ladies will be at the dinner, and there'll be a Q&A there, and we'll be there for a weekend partying. So join us, come and join us, and have a great night. So excited you all were here. And thank you all again.
Thanks for the invitation, Monique.
Yes, thank you, Monique. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. You guys were so generous with your time and your advice. I really appreciate it. So, mwah. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.